The men of the NHRA Winston Championship Funny Car ranks have perhaps the toughest job in all of motorsports. Taming an ill-tempered machine with 5,000 unrestrained horsepower is only one of the requirements. Concentration, determination, and an unwavering will to win complete a job description that is not filled by the faint of heart. For an entire year, these men have competed against each other to acquire qualifying points and thereby the right to race for a $50,000 winning purse. More than money, though, is the thrill of competition to determine who is the best of this elite funny car field. 8 men will begin the quest, each knowing that only one can emerge as champion, the dominant driver of the Big Bud Shootout. The National Hot Rod Association presents Championship Drag Racing on ESPN Speed World. The NHRA, the world's largest motorsports sanctioning body, today showcases nitro funny car action where nerves of steel are paramount, and the difference between winning and losing can be measured in thousandths of a second. Championship Drag Racing from the NHRA. Welcome, everyone, to our special event coverage from the legendary Indianapolis Raceway Park. The oldest and most prestigious special event in all of championship drag racing is the fabled Big Bud Shootout, pitting the 8 best funny cars in the world in a battle that ends with one superstar driver taking home a $50,000 paycheck for the 11th annual Big Bud Shootout. It takes an entire season of qualifying excellence just to be a part of this race, held on the same quarter mile as the fabled U.S. Nationals. That's Indianapolis Raceway Park. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave McClelland, and one driver in this field has been in the finals 4 times. He's won this race twice, the most recent in 1990. John Force, that driver, today is the #1 qualifier. John, can you win again?
Well, I think we got a real good shot at it, Dave. I know Austin's got this car where it's making some good numbers out there, but anybody can win this race. There's a lot of great cars here. There's a lot of corporate money on the line here, and I'm just really proud to be a part of it.
Well, Steve, you have my pick. John Force is going to take home that $50,000 paycheck.
Well, David, as you know, we have 3 first-timers in today's Big Bud competition. Let's take just a moment to talk about them. First of all, there's the youngster Whit Bazemore. He's still in his 20s, out of Atlanta, Georgia, and he certainly has the grit to win here today. But does he have the resources? Can he afford to lean on what equipment he has hard for 3 runs? I really wonder about that. Plus, he's up against John Force in round number 1. Whit may be able to beat the traffic today, unfortunately. Then there is Cruz Pedregon, the quickest driver in the history of the breed at 5.10 seconds. He has won 2 national events this year, but suffers from a lack of consistency and the ability to adapt to changing track conditions. A bit of a question mark on that one. Then there's Chuck Etchells. He, too, has won 2 national events this year, the team based out of Connecticut, and nothing Etchells does would surprise me. Whether he goes out first round or goes to the finals, absolutely nothing would amaze me with that team. They're very good and very unpredictable. But my pick today is Al Hoffman. It's only his 2nd appearance in the Big Bud Shootout, but in warm-ups, he covered the quarter mile in 5.21 seconds twice with 2 different motors, both of which are game day ready. I'll be surprised if he doesn't win it and shocked if he doesn't at least make it to the final round. Earlier, I had a chance to look at Al's car as, well, typical of the breed. The horsepower of today's nitro funny cars would be more easily measured on the Richter scale than any engine dynamometer. It's about 5,000, and it's created right here. Maximum size, 500 cubic inches. Supercharged Hemi engine on nitromethane. So much nitro is pumped through these motors, it takes 2 huge magnetos and 16 spark plugs just to fire it. As you can see, it's a tube chassis. The minimum weight is 2,200 pounds. But the bodies are fascinating, and you'll find a variety of makes, replicas, of course, of Detroit Iron. There's Oldsmobiles and Daytonas and Trans Ams and Camaros, but in one area, the bodies all have to be the same, and that's for downforce here at the rear. This rear spoiler can only be 56 inches long, measured from the center line of the rear axle. It can only be 54 inches wide, and the highest part can only be 3 inches taller than the highest part of the roof. Everybody has the same downforce. Safety features abound on the cars: fire bottles, seat belts, everything you would expect. And of course, at today's speeds, parachutes. You just can't stop without them.
It took a total of 17 races over an entire season for these 8 drivers to qualify for this field. The number 1 qualifier at those events would receive 175 points, working their way down through the 16-car fields till number 16 got 85. Mark Oswald amassed 2,075. That qualified him 4th. He's got lane choice over number 5 qualifier Cruz Pedregon. Del Worsham earned enough points to finish 3rd. He picks his lane in his first round race over Chuck Etchells. The number 1 qualifier is John Force, 2,625 points. He picks the lane against number 8 qualifier Whit Bazemore, and number 2 Al Hoffman gets to select his lane over the number 7 qualifier Tom Hoover. Cruz Pedregon getting suited up. He will be meeting Mark Oswald in the first round of competition, coming up in just a moment in the Big Bud Shootout. The 1992 NHRA Big Bud Shootout is being brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q is One Tough Motor Oil. And by Goodyear, number 1 in tires. Round number 1 of the Big Bud Shootout coming up next. Back at Indianapolis Raceway Park in the Big Bud Shootout, a huge crowd on hand under absolutely ideal weather conditions. And that's what these racers had hoped for. This is one of the super tracks providing ultimate traction, but they need good air to run in, and they've got it today here in the heartland of America. Our first round match, the number 4 and 5 qualifiers, Cruz Pedregon and Mark Oswald. As both drivers back up after their burnouts, you're looking on Cruz Pedregon. That's his crew chief, Larry Meyer, out in front directing traffic. Pedregon, the rookie here, must rise to the challenge because Mark Oswald, the driver of the Petosa Brothers Dodge, has won this event twice. Back in 1986 and again in 1988 when he was driving for Candies and Hughes. For Cruz Pedregon, he is one of the hottest names in funny car racing today. This is a young man that has had the opportunity to drive not only this nitro funny car, but also a nitro dragster and an alcohol funny car as well as a top alcohol dragster. A very well-rounded driving star. The lane choice went to Oswald, and he goes up in smoke. Cruz Pedregon across the quarter mile. Larry Meyer acknowledges one of the quickest elapsed times of this entire weekend, 5:15 at over 289 miles an hour. The McDonald's Olds, as you watch in replay, advances to the semifinals of the Big Bud Shootout. Oswald got off the line well, but then lost traction. It really would not have mattered. He'd have had to have one of his best runs ever just to be able to keep pace with a flying Pedregon. Here's the Nobody Beats the Wiz Dodge Daytona, driven by Chuck Etchells. He's considered the rookie in this competition, compared at least to the 22-year-old Del Worsham. Let's go down to the far end of the racetrack, and Steve Evans.
Well, the Big Bud opens with a big bang, Cruz, a 5:15, 289.
I'll tell you what, Steve, I've driven top fuel cars for Larry Meyer, and this funny car pulls like a top fuel car in the middle.
Has it got 2 more of them in it? Consistency.
Absolutely. You know, we have the best crew, and we're ready.
Obviously for the first round, anyway.
Steve, that's what you call intimidation. A 5:15 out of Cruz Pedregon. Del Worsham comes into this event with a total of 2,260 points. For this young man at the tender age of 22, he qualified 3rd in the toughest competition of them all. Meantime, Chuck Etchells, first year ever in this Big Bud Shootout competition, qualified with a total of 1,895 points. But that was a season-long competition. This is one day of racing, 3 rounds of competition, single elimination tournament until there is one winner for a $50,000 payday. Worsham in the near lane. And just like Mark Oswald before him, Worsham goes up in smoke. Etchells blasts through to a 5:25 and 271 miles an hour. That has to please his crew. Headed up by Maynard Yanks as Chuck Etchells, the underdog here in round number 1, the rookie, goes to the semifinals. Another first-time competitor, Whit Bazemore, coming up next.
Hi, this is Chris Myers, hoping you'll join us later for the story on a trade between the Yankees and the Reds, plus the vote on the National League's Rookie of the Year, and the Nets and the Hawks pull off a trade. It's all later on SportsCenter.
Back at Indianapolis Raceway Park, Tom Hoover is getting ready to go for his first round race in the Big Bud Shootout against Al Hoffman. Before that, though, we'll see Whit Bazemore challenge the #1 qualifier, John Force. Right now, here's Steve.
5:25, a terrific elapsed time, but the speed barely in the 270s. Chuck, did you click it just a little bit early?
No, we haven't been running good speed, Steve, really. This car has not run big speed, but the ET's good. Maynard was looking for a 20. Felt soft a little bit leaving, kind of wanted to run good in the middle, but it slowed down upstairs, you're right.
You saw that 15 by Pentagon.
Well, see what happens.
You like the Mad Sad. 5:25 for Chuck Etchell's very creditable, and you take into consideration that 5:15 by Pendragon. John Force at his Castrol Olds is trying to avenge last year's Big Bud Shootout. He made it all the way to the final round, but he got beat by Jim White, driving Roland Leon's Hawaiian Punch Dodge. And for Austin Coyle, his crew chief, he needs to rebound as well. Whit Bazemore's got quite a challenge in front of him. His fast orange Ford Probe taking on the #1 qualifier. Bazemore qualified with 1,830 points. The spread, 2,625. That's the most amassed in a season of qualifying by John Force, the leader. He has won this event back in 1987 and back in 90 and finished in the runner-up spot 3 times. Force with the victory. Bazemore losing a parachute. He hits the second one. It comes out and will slow him to a safe stop as a 5:24 by John Force, keeping pace with Chuck Etchell's, but about 1/10 of a second slower than Cruz Pendragon. Here we watch in replay why Whit Bazemore earned his way into this Big Bud Shootout field. He is the only driver thus far to get down the lane nearest the camera, and he gave Force a challenge at least to the 8th mile point. Then we see a little tire smoke starting on Bazemore's car, a flash of flame out of both of them, and Force by several car lengths got to the finish line first.
I think John Force got exactly what crew chief Austin Coyle wanted out of this car first round, 5:24.
Well, it did. You can't win second round. You don't win first. Conditions were good, obviously. Cruz ran with this Oldsmobile. It knows how to do its stuff when it needs it. We're saving the right parts for second round.
It's still putting some kind of trash out of the pipes going into the lights.
Oh, it always does, but we got certain blowers, certain heads that we run, just like the Hawaiian Punch. We're saving them for next round. We're going to give it to the boys.
The Hawaiian Punch car that won a year ago.
And Steve, believe me, John has a long memory. He wants no repeat of that final round. Here is Al Hoffman, his wife Helen, out directing traffic with a blower drive service Dodge. Remember, this is Steve's pick. John Force, my pick, has already advanced into the semifinals. The guy standing in the way of Al Hoffman is the driver of the Scotch Color Print Film Dodge Daytona, longtime veteran racer out of the state of Minnesota, Tom Hoover and his Showtime car. Hoover qualified #7. He amassed a total of 1,855 points, while Hoffman, making his second Big Bud Shootout appearance, qualified second with a total of 2,455 points. That gives him no choice of lanes. He has selected the strip of asphalt that is the furthest from our cameras. Continuing to show the consistency he displayed in the warm-up runs of 5:23 at 283 miles an hour. 3 of our 4 semifinalists have all run in the mid-520s. Al Hoffman and Chuck Etchell's within a few hundredths of each other. They'll face off in the semifinals with Hoffman picking the lane. Cruz Pendragon is the one outsider. He ran in the 5-teens, a 5:15. That gives him lane choice against John Force. But there's that 515 engine. It suffered damage in that first round race. It is being replaced right now in the McDonald's Oldsmobile. Is that good news for John Force? We'll find out in just a few moments. Back at Indianapolis Raceway Park, John Force is rolling through the staging lanes. He's getting ready for his semifinal round with Cruz Pendragon. in this year's running of the Big Bud Shootout. Before we get there, though, let me take a moment to invite you to become a member of a very special organization, the National Hot Rod Association. For $48 a year, you get 48 issues of National Dragster, a patch, a pin, a rule book, and a whole lot more. And if you order by calling the number on your screen, you'll get yourself a free copy of Diamond P's Home Video Drag Racing 91. Order today. Right now, it is Al Hoffman and Chuck Etchell squaring off in the final four of the Big Bud Shootout. Helen Hoffman backing Al into a position. You're riding inside the blower drive service Dodge. Earlier, Steve had a chance to talk to both crew chiefs, Tom Anderson for Al Hoffman and fifth man for Chuck Etchell.
Maynard, you have to give Chuck a lot of power, but maybe not too much.
Well, Steve, I think that's what happened the first pass there. You know, our early numbers compared to everybody else's were a lot better. It looked like the car was maybe going to run a 17 or something. It got loose about 3 seconds and really smoked the tires about 3.5 seconds. So we're going to try and move the clutch out and leave the power about the same.
Tom Anderson, you guys have lane choice. That's about the only difference.
Yeah, it really is. This Bud Shootout's awful close racing. I mean, you're talking about the best qualifying cars in the country, which means the fastest cars in the country, and it's tough out there. It's going to be a real good race.
The question is, can the consistency continue? Mid-520s for both of these drivers, only by a few hundredths does Al Hoffman have the lane choice. Hoffman the last to stage. Al on a good pass. He wins it and goes to the finals. Al Hoffman, there's the picture of consistency he likes to see. 5:24 at 282 miles an hour. He got an advantage off the starting line that you ought to be able to see in this instant replay. Look at that. Hoffman moved first. How do we know that? Look how close the times were. Hoffman ran 5:24. Chuck Etchell's 5:25, only 100th of a second difference in elapsed times, but a big difference in reaction time at the starting line. Hoffman the winner by more than a car length. Steve?
Boy, Dave, do I know what horse to ride right into the final round. What a drag race. You maybe didn't see him. You had such a good start.
No, I think I left on him.
Yes, big time.
But we're just happy to be here. BDS, blower drive service Dodge Daytona is just doing an excellent job. Tom Anderson, my entire crew. My wife, Helen, just can't say enough about everything that's gone on here this weekend so far.
24 to a 25.
Nice runs. Good going.
Our next pair finds the race that everybody in this huge facility has been wanting to see. The McDonald's Oldsmobile of Cruz Pedregon up against the Castrol Olds of John Force. Pedregon got the quick elapsed time around 1 at a 5:15, but Larry Meyer and his crew had to change engines. John Force has run in the mid-520s. And another good pass for Force. Smoking the tires in the middle with Pedregon. He slows to a 5:40, while John Force blasts out a 5.20 at over 279 miles an hour to move him into the finals once again. There's just a bit of a header fire on Force's car. Let's see if we can find out what went wrong. Pedregon got a great lead, as did Force. But as they pulled away from the starting line, Force began to extend his lead. In the middle of the racetrack, Pedregon smoked the tires, and at the finish line, John Force popped the supercharger. Watch, right there. A backfire through the supercharger, causing some damage on Force's Oldsmobile. But he will be facing Al Hoffman in the finals, and the winner will take home $50,000, and John Force will get to pick his lane.
John, you said earlier, I'll burn it if I have to, and you almost did.
We really did, Steve. It's really exciting. We're talking career moves here. Cruz is trying to make one, and I told Coyle, don't care what it takes, what's the price, put her down there. But it shows you this onboard stuff, this fire equipment, this stuff worked. I'm really excited about it. One button, the fire was out, and I'm out of the car, and I just love it this way.
Yeah, the motor is a terminal.
Motor's junk, but life moves on from here. Money's easy. All my people that put in the bucks here, all the major corporates, you know who they are. I want to thank them because it's your bucks I'm spending the days, boys.
He spent a few on that one. The engine problems, as Steve described it very accurately, terminal. We'll be back with the finals in just a moment. One race remains in the Big Bud Shootout, and this is the big one. $50,000 going to the winner. The burnout's underway. The repairs completed on the Castrol Oldsmobile of John Force. The picture of consistency all day long has been his competition. The guy that is in this race for only the second year, Al Hoffman at the wheel of the Blower Drive Service Dodge. Earlier, Steve had a chance to take a look at the personal side of our finalists.
I'm with the John Force's Woman's Auxiliary. 4 daughters and wife, Lori. Lori, I don't know which is harder, pounding on the car like Helen Hoffman is doing or managing this gang.
They're probably both just as difficult. John can get tense in between rounds, so keeping them out of his hair is a job.
You get a lot of help from Adria, the oldest daughter, too.
Yeah, age is a good help.
You know a lot about this car, and it's hurt.
Yeah, but hopefully we'll win today. That's all that counts.
Okay, and you told me, Brittany, that Daddy won because you had your fingers crossed, or was that you, Courtney?
Dad won the race because I crossed my finger like this.
Well, better cross both hands this next time, huh?
Yeah.
Unlike the madhouse over in the John Force camp, things are pretty calm in Al Hoffman's pit. Helen Hoffman just leisurely cleaning the oil pan. You got to feel good about this.
Yeah, I feel as good as this is our first one at Rockingham. That was a real astounding win for us. This is a long, hard worked for.
Your man's driving has never been better.
Our man's driving today has been brilliant, and our crew chief's tune-up and all the work that all the boys are doing on the team is just excellent. We couldn't ask for a better team.
Do you ever get clean nails, a manicure ever?
Once at the Winston banquet, I have long nails, only to flick them off the next day.
Go back to work.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks.
Helen Hoffman, a native of Australia. As the body comes down on her man's car, you know that Al's got to be thinking about this, his biggest potential payday ever. $50,000 is waiting at the end of the quarter mile. John Force has already sampled that kind of payday twice before. The lane choice here, going to Force. He selected the lane nearest the camera. Force up in smoke. Hoffman goes up in smoke. Hoffman stays with it. Gets close to the center line, but drives away and takes the win. Tom Anderson and Helen Hoffman celebrate on the starting line. $50,000 goes to Al Hoffman, the champion of the Big Bud Shootout, and for the second year in a row, John Force comes home the runner-up. Let's watch this weird race in replay. Al and John lead the starting line. Almost identical reaction time. Then Force smokes the tires first. Hoffman follows suit. Look how far out of shape Force gets. He tries to bring it back under control, but is unable to do so and crosses over the center line. When he does that, the race has automatically gone to Al Hoffman, the victor for the very first time in only his second year of competition in the Big Bud Shootout.
Al Hoffman, strange but interesting final round, but you won the 50 grand. That's all that really matters.
Well, that's all that counts. When you're up against John Force, you're up against the best. You got to step on it. And we smoked the tires, figuring, you know, it might run 18 if it got down through there, and it didn't. But he had the same plan, and we just came out on top.
Well, you never saw him cross the center line, but you almost did.
No, I didn't see him. I knew I was getting close, and I had to keep pedaling because as long as I didn't see him, I wasn't going to leave it alone.
Right, but Charlie Hodges of Anheuser-Busch has $50,000 for Al Hoffman right here. Take a look at this. Charlie, come on in. Give him a shake.
Al, congratulations.
That's terrific. Nothing beats a Bud today. Nothing beats Al Hoffman.
That was a $50,000 pedal.
For Steve Evans, I'm Dave McClellan saying so long from Indianapolis. The 1992 NHRA Budweiser Big Bud Shootout has been brought to you by Pennzoil, America's #1 selling motor oil for performance, protection, and quality.